you also have had a philosophy around like buying cars, and you always are driving, a nice vehicle, but you have a way of purchasing it so that you've been able to buy high quality used cars at a very
Mhm.
fair price that hold their value, drive them for a few years, and sell them sometimes for the same amount that you paid for them. I mean, that's
Yeah, it's
super
true.
savvy.
It's amazing. If you take $300 a month, let's just say, if I were to take $300 a month and I multiplied it by the number of months in my life, how much
Mhm.
money would you save not having a $300 a month car payment? And
Yes.
the average person has a higher than $300 a month car
Oh,
payment.
What if the best chapter of your life hasn't even begun yet? What lies within you is the power to live brighter, bolder, and truer than ever before. So welcome to Vivatude, where caregiving, connections, and career come into balance, and where your vitality, vision, and voice shines through. Because the revolution isn't out there, it's already within you. Welcome to Vivatude.
welcome back to Vivatude. This is Kate Phillips of Total Wealth. I'm here with Brenda Sutton, who is launched her second career, very successful second career as a personal trainer, a strength and wellness coach. She's leading Pilates and exercise classes that have a wait list to get into. And that is after leaving the corporate life. And in this part two, I want to have us talk about like what were some of the financial steps for her to get there. And one of the things Brenda has done that is absolutely brilliant is how she has used her home, turning her home into an income stream, and would love to hear you share
Mhm.
about that.
Yeah, I think as a single mom uh, who bought a house in Portland, Oregon, a little bit later in life, what I decided was I needed to monetize my property.
Mhm.
So, how would I do that? And so I started by just renting one room out. I remodeled my basement and rented one room out. Um, and that was our spending money, literally our spending money. And then as my kids got older, then I had another room that I could rent. Um, and that helped me start fixing my house up a little bit and planning a little bit more. And then as my kids actually flew the nest, away from the nest, um, the teen cave wasn't needed downstairs anymore. And so I converted that to an ADU apartment. And
Mm.
and that's
An
been
ADU,
helpful.
if anybody's not familiar with that, ADU means accessory dwelling unit. And there's two kinds of ADUs. They can be detached or they can be attached, part of your home. And because this is in the lower level of your home, it's just an ADU instead of a DADU, which I learned from another client that was the detached ADU. So
Right.
just to give you that term there.
Yeah, honestly, I was planning on having a detached ADU, a dadu, but I couldn't quite wrap my hands around it and get it
Mm.
done. And so it just didn't happen, even though I started the plans. And just I decided I'm going to convert the basement. And when I finally converted it, I converted it for me, actually. If I
Mm.
wanted to live in the basement and rent my upper part of my house, then I could. So it's very nice down there. I pumped in some great big egress windows and it's very light. It's a very nice basement
It
ADU.
is
Yeah,
extremely nice.
yeah. So that's one of the things I did. I also, for my last 2 years, um, didn't live on my full salary. So
Mm.
I spent, actually, I could have saved the money, but I spent the money on all the improvements that I thought I would need to make on my house over the next 10 years. So I did things
Smart.
painting my house. I needed to do some concrete and yard work. I needed to do garage door, lots of different things that I just kind of filled in and made my property more livable. So I did that. So then I knew that when I wasn't in corporate, when my salary would go down, maybe I was living on less of it, less money already, right?
Mm-hmm. So
Um,
super smart. I
yeah.
know you also have had a philosophy around like buying cars. I mean, there's like people have assumptions in the world,
Yeah.
in life about how much something's going to cost or how much you should spend on something.
Mhm.
And you always are driving, a nice vehicle, but you have a way of purchasing it so that you've been able to buy high quality used cars at a very
Mhm.
fair price that hold their value, drive them for a few years, and sell them sometimes for the same amount that you paid for them. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it's
super
true.
savvy.
It's amazing. If you take $300 a month, let's just say, if I were to take $300 a month and I multiplied it by the number of months in my life, giving myself the benefit of the doubt from the age of 30 to 50, even just that, how much
Mhm.
money would you save not having a $300 a month car payment? And
Yes.
the average person has a higher than $300 a month car
Oh,
payment.
I think the average car payment now for a used car is well over $500 and it's over $700 for a new
Yeah.
car. So we need to be just making savvier choices rather than, the easy or the automatic, not that it's easy to pay that kind of car payment, but just getting savvy. I also want to back up to something that I noticed because I've come down and I've been at your home, I've stayed with you, I've met some of the housemates and have heard you talk about some of the housemates because sometimes our minds, because I've also turned my home into a different kind of a rental, a midterm furnished rental. But sometimes we make these assumptions like, well, I don't want some stranger in my home, but you have actually become friends. You have been able to attract like really high quality tenants that you've become friends with, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I look for people that have decided to make some kind of a change in their life and they're working towards a goal, you know? And so, aligning the kind of people I live with in that way. And, usually living with another person isn't a forever situation. We outgrow it eventually. And we have that discussion, right out of the gate that, that usually we know in any relationship, whether it's our job, our partner, or our housing, we do know when it's kind of time to move on. But when we pay
Mhm.
attention to that, we can move on in peace. And if we don't recognize those signs, then sometimes it's more challenging in all of those situations. And so everybody that's lived here knows that, there's a purpose and it's a place of growth and transformation. And they take their life to the next level when they live here. And I think when we're clear on all of those kind of things, then we have a higher chance for success. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I'm hearing you bring such intentionality and even bringing that alive, that
Mhm.
acronym into your home and how
Mhm.
you live. Also, I don't know if he's one of your current roommates, but one of your roommates you're closely related to, one of the housemates that your adult son, that when it was time for him to be an adult, at least for part of that time, that he's like, we can, I don't know, again, there are the assumptions that, he's an adult working man. You have another adult working man, your significant other. And so to not be afraid to say, hey, I've put all kinds of love and time and money and effort into this home, and you will be supporting this household that
Yeah, I mean,
that
everybody makes a contribution.
Yeah,
you know, and
exactly.
for them, it's less than it would be if they lived on their own, a lot less.
Yeah,
And so everyone makes a contribution, and I think that's fair.
yeah,
Um, but again, if they had to move out on their own, it would be even more. It would like triple.
absolutely.
It would triple. And even I have a law student in the ADU right now. It's a very good
Mm,
deal for the law student also. I mean, I think that if we're working towards a goal and we're busy and we have things going on, then it's only fair that, you know, that we're in a situation that's reasonable for everybody. Um,
yes.
and
Definition
so
of a win-win that,
works for everyone.
we
Yes.
provide value, we ask for something in return, everybody benefits, everybody understands, what the rules are. And I know that this living situation might not be the same one that you choose 5 years from now or 10 years from now, but it was a way for you. I think monetizing our homes through whatever means. And I've known people that I have friends that have the dadoos, the detached. I have friends that have rented like their garage out,
Mhm.
or a parking spot. Or for a while, I had my brother move in with me. I had my
Mhm.
father living with me for a while, and then my brother moved in to help with my father. Like, we can have these creative living situations, and driving situations, living situations, working situations, so that we're just approaching life in a more financially savvy way.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's fun to see people. I mean, I've had a PA, physician's assistant, I've had acupuncturist, a psychologist, multiple nurses, a teacher, now a law student. All these people have like graduated under this roof. And that's really cool. It's really it's really special, you know, and
I
we
love
all
that.
impact each other's lives. And we're
Hmm.
not in each other's way, but we're not in each other's way because I screened and interviewed for a situation that would fit people who are active, that have a life and they have a goal and they're working hard towards that goal. Yeah.
Perfect. What are some other things that you have done to put yourself in a situation where you could make that career change?
Yeah. Other things. Well, there are mindset things too. So,
Mm,
two mindset things come to play for me, come right to my to up to the surface. One is when I was leaving corporate, it was really hard. I couldn't figure out why it was so hard for me to leave. Like it was a no-brainer for me to leave. But I was having a hard time with it. And the human connection component of knowing that I had been with the same company for 36 years. I was it was like a marriage, a long-term marriage. I was in multiple visible positions. Everybody knew me. So I had long-term relationships. That was my community. So
you
I
sure
had to
did.
realize that, oh, I can rebuild that if I want to someday. So that
Hmm.
was one of the mindset changes I had to make was realizing, oh, you know, I am changing my relationship status with a lot of people. I might not see this.
Yes.
Yeah. And
And
then,
you also get to keep the relationships that you choose to keep. You probably are still in touch with the people who were most important to you.
yes, yes, yes. And then the other one is how I view scarcity and abundance.
Mm.
So, you know, I didn't grow up with money. And as a single mom, there wasn't a lot. And so I tend to fall over here on the scarcity side. And as someone in the coaching world, we talk like abundance should be easy to get, to feel, to have, to attract. It's everybody can do it. That's what we say in the coaching world. And my logical mind was kind of like, hmm, scarcity feels a lot more real to me than abundance. I mean, I can feel abundant love, but this whole abundant money thing, if I'm going to have wait to retire until I can feel like I might have abundance, I might not ever retire ever. So I
Mm.
said to myself, okay, Brenda, what is between scarcity and abundance that you can wrap your hands around? And I was like,
And what is that?
yeah, what is that? So I said, okay, so enough. Okay. So
Mhm.
scarcity means I don't have enough. What does it having enough mean? Having enough means that I can pay my bills and that I have food and gas. And that means I have had enough. And will
Mhm.
Brenda ever rewire or retire if she just has enough? Probably not.
Mm.
Probably not.
Mm.
Because it's too close to scarcity. So now I
Mm.
have scarcity enough, which is nice. And I
Yes.
have abundance. I can't reach abundance. It's like over there. And so what is between enough and abundance? See my hand, you can't see it. Uh, that I can wrap my head around, wrap my hands around. And I decided the word plenty. So I could define plenty for myself. So plenty for me at this point in my life, because I can redefine anything, any of those words,
Mhm.
anything. Plenty for me is that I have enough and I can go out to dinner when I want to.
Mm.
I can sign up for a class that I want to go to. I can go on a trip once in a while. Okay.
Mhm.
Maybe I have this view that abundance means I can just go anywhere I want, anytime I want. I can't really see it, but I can see that I'm going to go, to Idaho Sawtooths this summer or
Mhm.
wherever it is that I'm going to go. And so for me, I had to almost come up with a new model besides scarcity, which I could see, and abundance that was way over here where I can't see it. You can't see my hands. And if I could just assume and trust that there would be enough and plenty, then I would be able to make that decision easier.
I love the word plenty. I think we've had this
Mhm.
conversation before, maybe a couple of years ago while
Yeah.
walking through wildflowers, that I am obsessed with the word plenty, and it reminds me of like potlucks when you go there and you're like worried about is there going to be enough food? And then yes, there's plenty. I mean, you might have too many chips or not enough of something else. There's
Mhm.
always, and I define plenty as just more than enough, and but there is this idea sometimes with the word abundance that we want to have like, you know, things are completely unlimited. But the truth is, that's not where most of us live. That's not the reality of our situation, is that things are not unlimited, but they can still be plentiful.
Yes. Yeah.
So I
And
love that.
they might be plentiful in some ways and not in others. And we can work on that. And we can shift that and we can change that. And the idea of abundance doesn't have to be thrown out. It's still a possibility. We can still be curious about it. And there's areas of our life that we can choose to feel abundance, love or health or whatever it might be. But there's areas that we might struggle with it. And how can we change our mind to where we're not stopped because we can't quite visualize something that everyone else, it seems like, can visualize?
And
Yeah.
sometimes it may be just a matter of being able to focus on what is it that we can feel grateful for today? How can we refocus to notice where it is that we do have enough and maybe even in some areas plenty. We
Right.
were talking before we hopped on here about multiple streams of income, and I think it's one of the disservices that we have with the typical retirement model is that we're really trained to believe that we need this huge nest egg. I think this is a very Wall Street driven idea because, there are advisors, or we think of them as advisors. Maybe they are really more mutual fund salespeople in some cases, where their goal, they make their living through assets under management. So it's their goal to have as many of your assets as possible under their management. And they, get the fees and the commissions, and then they dole out a little bit of income to you over time. But really, when we combine all of the different sorts of income streams, and they don't all come at once, you're not yet taking Social Security, you're not even at that age yet. I know, there's some savings there where at some point, there'll be some retirement funds, but not yet. You did have a modest, a small pension from your work, and that can be a beautiful thing. And whether people are coming from government work, or they were a teacher, or served in the military, or whether we even can turn a lump sum uh, into a personal pension through something like an annuity. And then that can give us a little bit of stability, where that enables us to go invest more, or to go create a new stream of income, or like you, to go back to school. You went back to school for like a whole year and got all these certifications in
Mhm.
personal training, and in Pilates, and in group exercise, and all of the stuff. You invested in yourself.
Mhm.
And so we need to not be thinking like, if you don't have that big lump sum that we're trained to believe that we need, it doesn't mean that we can't get creative in all these other ways, monetizing our home, or having some dividend income, or
Mhm.
all of these, a side gig, all of these ways. So I love the creativity that you've brought into your life and your
Mhm.
finances.
Yeah, I worked in the retirement plan world for so many years.
Yeah.
I saw pensions going away, and
Mhm.
they froze our pension well before I retired. And so that, put a cap on it really early in my career. But having even a small pension, it does take the edge off. And so it's just
Mm.
one ingredient in the retirement pie, you know. So if you don't have a
Yes.
pension, maybe you're saving in a Roth IRA, or
Mhm.
monetizing your property, or driving a used car instead of a brand new car.
Yeah.
You know, all of these little ways add up. Actually, I think young people are really learning that. They're getting their sources of income from various different places. Well, even retirement people are also, because they need to. Just side
Mhm.
hustles, even some people just do side hustles, like having fun working at Home Depot or Ace Hardware, or, driving Uber once in a while, whatever it is. They don't maybe do it all the time, but they do it once in a while to supplement their income.
Absolutely.
It's not
I've
all or
got I've got
nothing.
a book in my background, Perpetual Wealth, that I still get quarterly royalties from that. It's not a huge amount of
Mhm.
money, but it's nice. And it also makes me think like, oh, what other books would I like to write? I worked with a woman with her marketing, and was kind of a co-writer, ghostwriter for her. And at least at times in her life, like her multiple books, which are really just lead generators for her finance business, her multiple books would pay most people mortgages, and they were probably paying her mortgage. So like, there's just endless ways that we can start creating an income stream here, an income stream there. I know people who have been very successful in network marketing. That's another thing that doesn't have to be like a traditional job, but I know people who have turned that into a full-time income on their own terms.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought also, I have these big, huge garden beds in my front yard, and every year my gardening the last couple of years has kind of gone down and down and down, because I've been pretty busy either learning this new career or traveling during the summer, which is gardening time. And in
Mhm.
Portland, I could rent those beds if I wanted to.
Ah,
I could
there you go.
literally rent them if I wanted to. I don't,
Let
but
dirt.
I could.
Have
Well,
dirt. You
they're
can rent
raised
it.
garden beds, they're 2.5, 3 feet high. And so you don't even have to lean over, and they're already filled and ready for seeds, and they have drip irrigation and everything. But I'm using them. I'm going to use them again. But that's also another way I grow my own vegetables.
Yes.
You
I
know,
have had one of the best salads I think I've ever had at your place. Homegrown vegetables and homemade cilantro dressing.
yeah,
It was amazing.
yeah,
Well, I want to ask you a couple of questions in closing. First, of how people can reach you if they want to get in touch with you. I know that you are at brendalsutton.com. We're going to have that in the
mhm.
show notes. We'll have other ways, your email and so forth in the show notes. Is there anything else you want to say about how and where people can reach you?
Yeah, probably my webpage right now. Um,
Okay.
I'm really, transitioning, doing a little less of the classes and personal training at Portland State and at Reed College, and doing a little bit more at home and in other people's homes as I move forward. But probably that's the best way, or my email address. Yeah,
Love it. And
brenda.sutton.coach@gmail.com.
Brenda, that's Brenda.Sutton, SUTTON.coach at
Mhm.
gmail.com.
Mhm.
And I want to ask you in closing of what advice you would have for women caregivers, for maybe sandwich generations moms, which
Yeah.
absolutely you are in this category, for navigating change and challenges, especially if you're looking to maybe make a career change or align your life more with
Yeah.
what inspires you.
Yeah. Well, I would say invest in yourself
Mm.
by living life alive, defining
Hmm.
all these things for yourself and doing that work, and by getting strong. So invest in your future, and anybody who loves you is going to see that, and that's going to be good for them too. And so just, keep moving forward, keep learning, keep growing. It's never too late to get strong. And, keep your eye on that vision. What's most important to you? What do you love? What do you want to create? What is it that you want to do? And be curious about slowly how you can steer your ship in that direction. And you'll get there eventually, maybe even faster than you think.
Yes, I love hearing how even 2 years ago you had these doubts. What if nobody wants to come to my exercise classes and now they're waitlisted? So that's like it's just amazing. It's just I
Yeah.
think you're a testimony to not only
Mhm.
creativity, but to following your passions, following your intuition, being willing to take those steps, even when it feels scary, even when you're unsure, even when you know you're ready to move on, but what you have is so comfortable. Uh, but yet you knew that there was something else out there for you, other possibilities. Give us one last time that acronym. I messed it up earlier, the ALIVE.
Yeah.
I see it. I see it. ALIVE stands for alignment, love, inspiration, vitality, and ease. When we focus on those 5 things, there is very little that we can't accomplish.
Yeah. Thank you, Kate.
Brenda, it's been a delight to have you here as
Oh,
part of our Vivatude shows here. And if you are listening and watching, and especially if you are a caregiver, a sandwich generation mom, that we encourage you to subscribe, to like, leave a comment. Also, we'd love to know what you got out of this. And we will be back soon with more shows for you here on Vivatude.
And thanks for listening to Vivatude. 4 hosts, 1 each week. We help you revivitude your next chapter because purpose, passion, and prosperity isn't out there. They're already within you. Brighter, bolder, truer. Vivatude.